Okay, I'm back and I'm really sorry about that. Really don't know what's happening today, and just trying to coordinate between the phone and the laptop. But all the routers have been moved. I don't know if my voice is any better on this one. I'm not yet frozen, so hopefully it should be fine. So let's see how that goes. So is it any better now? Can you hear me? Oh, great. Finally. Oh my goodness. I am so sorry. This hardly ever happens to me. I really don't know what that was all about. But welcome back and thank you so much for your patience. This is really horrible and it's annoying. Thank you, Dorothy. Really appreciate it. Hi, Sherry. Nice to have you on board. Thanks, Alison. Thank you for your patience, every single person. I really do appreciate it. Oh my gosh. Now I'm all flustered and bothered and sweaty, but I'll get over it. Don't worry. Okay, so where was I? I think we were celebrating a 10th birthday. And it's just to say happy birthday to the Mrs. H Consortium and wishing her and the whole team lots more years together. I did make a cheesecake, but now I'm too flustered to even go get it. So we're not having cheesecake today. Sorry. So today we're going to be looking at the Squiffy Sling bag. It comes in two sizes, the small and the large. I'm focusing on the small today because I like every single thing small. I don't know why, but as long as it's small, I'm good. So I will be focusing on the small. Please feel free to make the large one if that's the one you would really like to do. That is really great. And also, before we start, the pattern it's a bit different. Cutting up the pieces is slightly different from what we normally do because once we've taped everything all together, it's just a case of placing it on maybe on the fold or placing it on the fabric and then just whizzing through all the parts. But with this one, the outer, I think it has to be cut on the right side of the fabric. And for the lining, it has to be cut on the wrong side of the fabric. So I have to keep that in my brain, and we all have to keep that in our brains while we're cutting, because if not, we can get it all wrong. So I'm going to take it nice and slow, and I'm going to go step by step. So the first thing I would expect everybody to do would have been to print out your pattern, which I already have. So I have mine in two piles, well, two and a bit, which says, and the first one is SO1 all the way to SO6, which would be the ones for the outer. Then I have another pile here that says SL1, which goes up to SL6, which is the lining, and it has a bit more patterns at the bottom. When it comes to straight cutting, I don't use patterns. I just use a rotary cutter and a ruler. It's faster for me and it's easier for me. So if you're like me and that's what you want to do, all you need to do is print pages 11 to 23. And if you want like the little tabs that we use to sort of label all the pieces once we've cut them, you might want to cut page 24 for the small one as well, or page 45 for the large one. So for the small pieces, if you're making the small one and you want to use the rotary cutter to cut, you would need pages 11 to 24. And if you're doing the bigger one, you would need pages 27 to 45. So that's up to you, whichever of them you're doing. So today, because I'm doing the small one, I only have 11 to 24. And I think that's the easiest part of the cutting and the pasting together. It is easy, trust me. Once we start, you'll see how easy it is. But when I just look at it, to me, it's like, oh my goodness. But so let's start with the fun. And before we go on, apart from the fabric, so I have that for my main fabric, and I'm using all cotton fabric, as in I'm not using faux leather or vinyl or anything. Please, if you want to use those, please go ahead and use it. But it's just easier for me to whiz through things when I'm just using regular fabric. So I've got the main fabric, and I've got the bottom bit, and then the contrast at the bottom, and then the lining fabric. I've got those there. And what I've also done is on the pattern pieces I'm meant to be cutting, I've also put the colors on them as well. This is the first time I've actually had to do that because, like I said, I was looking at the patterns and I thought to myself, oh no, but we'll be fine, trust me. So she says, hi Leo, welcome back. Hi Sharon, it's nice to see you again. Hi Shell. Hi everybody again. Thank you all for coming back, and it's really, really lovely to see you all on board. And like I said, please, if I'm speaking too fast, just slow me down. And if there's anything I've explained and you're not really clear about it, please shout. I will pick up your questions as I go along. So first things first, I'm taking all the pattern pieces that say SO1 all the way to SO6, and those are the ones we're going to work with first. So the way I do it is ruler, rotary cutter, and I just cut all along the lines. Now this is just a rotary cutter for paper. I don't use it for fabric or anything because it's so tiny and I really can't be bothered. So once you've printed out, just cut. And when you're printing out your patterns, make sure you're printing out at actual size. You're not trying to, unless you really do want to sort of enlarge or decrease the size, please make sure that you're actually printing at actual size. Some of the pattern pieces have dotted lines. They've got the solid line and then they've got the dotted lines just a bit. Make sure you're actually cutting those on the dotted lines and not on the solid ones, because that's where you're going to attach it to the next piece it needs attaching to. So I'm almost done with that. And also, before I forget, I'm hosting a giveaway. So 1 meter piece of 10 of the African wax fabric I carry. I am hosting a giveaway based on the birthday celebration. So please go enter. And unfortunately, it's only for UK residents because of shipping and all of that. But I'm sure that the US sector also would have different things that they would have been able to enter, and the UK guys would not have been able to enter as well. So please, it does look fat, yes. So please go and try your luck and see if you can win like 10 different fabrics. This one we're using today will not be included, but there are some really lovely ones that are out there that you can really win if you do play the game, and if you're the lucky winner at the end of it. So oh, so Leo, you've already pieced it together. Wow, you're way ahead of every single person. That's great. Who else has pieced together? They are big, honestly. I think it's not so much as it being big, but it's just the fact that it's just so much of it. I was looking at it and I thought 6 pieces. Goodness gracious me. But once it's all done, and once you have all your pieces cut together, you know, all the fabric cut out, you find out that it just goes together really, really fast. So I try to be careful at the corners. I was really tempted to do this earlier, but I think I did read places where some people said they weren't sure what to do, and I just thought, you know what, it doesn't really take me that much time to whiz through all of these, so I'll just do it at this once I start. Don't worry, my cleaning fairy will be picking all those up for me on the side. I conjure word up when I need them. I'm sure we would all love to have cleaning fairies, honestly. It's maybe one of my little daughters, as in adopted daughters that come round or whatever. You know, somebody just comes in at the weekend and they help me out with one thing or the other. So those are my cleaning fairies. Oh yes, and cutting nails as well. Oh yes, Leo, tell me about it. That is number one on my list. Cutting and interfacing. Number one on my list. Okay, one other thing I did with these was that I actually numbered them, as in how the pattern does tell you exactly how to place each and every one of them. So the first one I'm going to do is SO1, SO2. I'm going to sellotape them together. And that's why I said make sure you're cutting on the dotted lines when you cut out the patterns. So I'm going to sort of sellotape them together. Come on, just there. And then we start putting all the other bits and pieces together. Where are you, oh sellotape? Okay. So SO affixed to SO1. First one done. And then it's, and it does say on the patterns as well how you're meant to sort of put them together, because if you look in between those lines, you can see like the little scribblings on there that says what needs to go on to what. So SO2, SO1, SO4, SO1, SO4, tape to SO4, tape to SO6, on the solid, SO1, SO2, so 1, 2, 3. Like I said, it says it, though I want to. So 3 comes down here. And 4 goes right over it. So that's 1, 2, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes. And remember, we're still going to do this for the lining as well. Okay. So eventually this would be going up to somewhere up there, and then 5 tip to 06. So this goes on here. So 5 goes right above 6. It's so different when you're reading something and you're not actually going through all the motions, and when you're actually doing whatever process you're meant to do. It's so different. Reading it, I just thought, oh yeah, that should be easy enough. But it is easy, trust me. I'm getting there. So that's 1, 2. So this goes up here. Tip to SO1, SO4, tip to SO4. Yeah. So this goes that way. Well, the next and final bit should be that should be the final bit. Okay. Almost done with the main one. Okay. So I'm going to show you, if you've tried to do this and you think it really looks strange, I'm just going to show you what it's meant to look like. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that is what it's meant to look like. So if yours looks like that, don't be surprised, don't be alarmed. It is the way it's meant to look. So that's the small outer done. Now we're going to quickly cut through the lining as well. Please take your time and don't rush the way I am, because my brain seems to follow every single thing I'm doing. But please take your time and go at your own pace. Like I said, if you have any questions or if you feel I'm really going too fast or anything, just scream or shout at me and I will sort of slow down a bit more. Hi, Deb. Hi, Monica. How are you? Please, if you're using a rotary cutter, make sure that when you place it down, you sort of retract the blade, because these things are stupidly sharp. Sorry, I'm laughing at Monica's reply. we're almost done. This one is fairly straight line, so this is the part I call Blue Peter, because we had this program on UK television whereby you teach little children how to glue all sorts of things together, make different types of things, gluing things together. So this is Blue Peter. Yeah. While I'm here, I'll just take care of the side B as well. So this should be the last one I would have to cut, and the last pattern I would have to join together. Okay, so these two will be going together, and all of these, 1, 2, Okay, 1 joins to 2. Six, 4, 5, 6. So you come down here and you come down here. So with the lining one, I'm joining SL2 to SL4 first. And so I'm taping SL1 to SL3. Move. Okay, then stay. Then the SL1, SL3 to the SL2, SL4. It's actually easier to fit it together like that. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, makes sense. So 5 and 6 down here. And then 5 and 6 goes to the extreme end of your lining piece combo. Okay, so the lining will look something like that, which is almost identical to the main one, and then you have the piece B, which is the bottom part of the bag. That's the contrast color. So those are these pieces, and it goes together on. So it goes right at the end, not where it says on the fold, but on the other side of that. So we just place that on there. Sorry, I dance when I'm trying to, gather my thoughts and everything. Just helps me think better. Hi, Lisa. So when that has been done, it looks like that as well. So they all look funny. All the shapes really, really, really look funny, but they work. And it gives you the lovely shape we have for the bag. The last thing I'm just going to quickly whiz through are the tags that I need to sort of affix to my different pieces when I've cut them out. So I'll just whiz through that. And if you look at that, either page 24 for the small or page 45 for the large, it tells you exactly on those tiny little tabs what you're meant to cut and how you're meant to cut it. So even if you're not 100% sure, read the instruction on there, because it says when the right side needs to be facing upwards, when the lining needs to be facing downwards and all that. So please refer to those as well when you're cutting your pieces. Okay, so we have A outer and A2, then A3 for the stabilizer. Then we've got B, C, D, and E1, E2, E3, which are all straps and strap connectors anyway. So those should be fine. It's D, C, B, A3, A2, A1. Everybody breathe. Okay. Now the next thing we're going to do is, if you haven't chosen your fabrics yet, this would be a good time to sort of figure out exactly what you want your combinations to look like and everything. But like I said, I already chose out the fabric that I want. So for the outer, I'm going to be cutting that one. So the right side up, and I'm only cutting one piece as opposed to like most other patterns that would ask you maybe to cut on the fold and all that stuff. So here I'm going to cheat a little bit, but it should work. Now I'm certain this is the right side of of the fabric I'm using, because sometimes it's very difficult to figure out what the right side is, but that is definitely the right side of that. So I'm just making sure I don't have anything under my rotary cutter. So first step, make sure you're working on the right side of your fabric. The right side facing up. Your pattern piece, the one that says SO1, that is joined all together from 1 to 6. Make sure you place it right on top of your fabric. And it's not being cut on, it's only being cut on one single sheet of fabric. It's not on a fold or anything. So bear that in mind when you're cutting that as well. And the next thing is I'm just going to pin this crazily together in every which way I can, so that when I do the final cutting round, it's a lot easier to do. Alternatively, what you could do is you could actually interface it before you cut it, which is another option because it makes it a bit more stable. But either way works for me, so I'll just go ahead and do this. But no matter what method I choose, I always make sure that I pin every single, well, the pattern piece to it, as in as many pins as I can stand. I just pin and make sure it's all nice, smooth. And please don't catch your hand on a pin because that's so very easy to do. So we'll be cutting round. So we'll be cutting round the pattern that way once we start cutting. And then the next one is this one, the blue one, which is going to be our lining fabric. And I just want to get all the cutting out of the way so that we can concentrate on all the other things we need to do. So that's going to, and another thing is my fabric is not directional, which really helps me because I don't want the extra headache of having to figure out, yes, it needs to look this way or it needs to look that way. It's just one way facing, perfect. And if I haven't told you, this is the first time I'm making this. So if I make a mistake, it's all part of the fun. But the next time I have to make it, I know I won't make the same mistake. Yes, Deb, honestly, it is. It is all part of the fun because, I just wake up some days and I just look at a pattern and I'm like, that's what I'm doing. No idea, no nothing. And I just start cutting and sewing. So I believe it's more fun that way anyway. And I can't tell you how nervous these sew-alongs make me because I anticipate them months in advance. If I had just woken up this morning and somebody had tossed the pattern in front of me, I'm sure I would be fine. But because I'd been thinking about them for so long, it's like, oh my goodness, I hope it all goes fine. But okay, just a few more pins to anchor it down. I've made a mistake already. This should be on the wrong side of the lining. It's written down, it's marked, it's every single thing down there, but I knew I was going to make a mistake, but it's a good thing I cut it on time. So the lining one goes on the wrong side of your lining. So your lining right side is facing down on the table. The pattern piece goes on the wrong side of your fabric. Good thing we pin before we cut. So there we go. Second time lucky. Okay, so it's on the wrong side of the fabric, as you can see there. So we're just going to cut around those when we're ready to do that. And this, like I said, I'm using just regular fabric, cotton fabric for this one, for the contrast, the front contrast of the bag, the bottom bit of it. And it needs to be cut on the fold. This is the only piece, the one that says the B. It's the only one that's cut on the fold. All the others are just cut plain, as in one single sheet of fabric, just cut out their pieces. The outer is cut on the right side of the fabric. The lining is cut on the wrong side of the fabric, and the one that says B left is cut on the fold. So please bear that in mind when we're cutting, that there's actually one that we do need to cut on the fold. And I say that because I have a tendency to forget these things. So that will be two together and nicely pinned down. Now we start trimming every single thing down and cutting them all to size and making sure they look like what they're meant to for the patterns. Okay, just using my pair of scissors to cut off the bits that have corners and things. There. Chances are with a rotary cutter, I'm just going to cut right through the whole thing, which won't be funny. Okay, so B cut nicely. Now to this one. Now, what's the fastest and easiest way to get through this? Double check before you cut to make sure that the lining pattern is on the wrong side of the lining, as in your lining is facing the table and the wrong side is facing you, and the pattern pieces are fixed to the wrong side of the lining. and the rest I'll do by scissors because they're all nooks and crannies, and it's just nice to do it with a pair of scissors so I get them nice and neatly. And just like magic, it's done. So please take your time, go around your edges and curves and everything you need to do nice and slowly. Now, I haven't ironed the fabric before I've started, so that's just folding in on fold, but once I iron it, it's going to be fine. So I'm going to be using that to cut out my interfacing when I do get to that stage. And then for this one, for the outer, make sure your pattern piece is actually on the outside of your fabric. So the wrong side of your outer fabric, the main outer fabric, if you're using multicolored as the main one, make sure that the wrong side is to the table, the right side is facing you, and the pattern piece is affixed to the right side. I think those were the bits that were a bit confusing to me when I was reading through the patterns and things, and I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? So if you've already done this bit before you joined us, I'm sure this might be a bit boring, but we'll soon catch up with you, trust me. And whatever fabric is left, don't worry yourself about it. We still have pockets to put in and different things, so you will definitely be using them for something. Okie dokie. And just like that, the front is done. So I have SO1, SL1, and I have the B. So now I need to cut the interfacing for each and every single one of them. Where is my tiny little bit of interfacing? So not you, not you. Now for the, I'm going to cut the bigger pieces out first. And with the main outer, the fusible side of the medium weight interfacing should be facing upwards. So I'm sure most of us know where the fusible side is. So it's the part that's slightly rough. When you run your hands through it, there's a part that's completely smooth, which is the part without the fusible. And then there's the part that's like slightly rough. So that's the part where you want facing upwards, fusible side up, yeah. And then we place the outer. Please make sure it's the SO1 pattern you're using for this particular part of the interfacing and not seriously. So yeah, it's still the and for the lining, it's going to be the other way. So the fusible side is going to be down when you cut the lining. So that's it. And then I'm going to have to flip it the other way, but that's okay. So I'm just seeing if it fits. Yep, it fits times 2. Okay. I could do it the other way, but it just doesn't cover up, you know, there's just a tiny little gap at the other end. So I'm just going to leave that and facing up and more pins. The reason why I'm not using the pre-existing pins is because I don't want to displace the pattern and the original pattern, the outer piece and the pattern itself. I don't want to displace them. Under normal circumstances, I'll just start taking out the old ones and just stock them back in, but just to be on the safe side. Okay, and we're just going to cut around that. I lose things a lot when I'm sewing. Yes, I could have used scrap fabric for the tiny piece, but because I have rows and rows of interfacing, I'm just like, oh, I can't be bothered. I'm sure if you guys were not online live with me, I'll just have ignored that tiny piece, but because everybody is watching, it's like I have to do it almost as proper as I can. So one interfacing and one main fabric, all swatched up in there. Trust me, they're there. For the lining fabric, make sure that the gluey side, that's the fusible side, the side that's really nice and rough, make sure it's facing the table. It's actually touching the table. The nice smooth side is looking up at you. Place your pattern piece right over the top. Yes, it does make sense. And again, we pin. And like I said, every single time I'm using a particular type of fabric, my hands always gravitate towards the pins that match the fabric, even if I don't make a conscious effort to choose them. Also, layering it, putting it all in layers and cutting them at once this way, it's a lot easier with this one because it's only just one pattern piece and it's not on the fold or anything. So it's not too bulky or sometimes when you have to cut, you might not be able to sort of put the pieces over the interfacing to cut them due to the bulk. But then it also depends on the size of the rotary cutter you're using, or if you're using a pair of scissors, you might just be able to get through it. But Okay, now to the pair of scissors. Okay, so the lining piece has now been cut and the interfacing, so that's the sticky side of the interfacing, that's too has been done. There's one more piece. If you're using faux leather or you're using vinyl, you might not need to interface. If your vinyl is too stretchy though, you might want to interface it, but because I'm using cotton as opposed to faux leather, I would have to interface. So I'm just cutting out my medium weight interfacing to go with it. And remember, it's cut on the fold as well, so please don't forget that. And if it's vinyl or whatever, you can just quickly grab a cup of tea or coffee or a drink of water or something while I whiz through this. And there we are. Okay. Yes, so those are the three main pieces already cut out. And remember those little tabs that I said was on page 25 and 24 and 45? These are them. So A1 is the outer and one outer side up. No, this is the lining. One outer side up. Just need to grab my clips. So that's that. And then that's lining. And then the base, which is the B base. I'll stick that on as well. So we now the zip pockets, and we're going to cut those out now. So it's up to you what you want to use. You can either use the same fabric as the lining, because you've got lots of this left over, and you've got the main fabric as well left over. So it's up to you, whichever one you prefer. Just cut. And the measurement you need to cut is already on the it's already mentioned in the pattern. So we're just going to cut that out now and interface that and put that to the side as well. We need 2 pieces of it, so don't be like me and think you've cut one and it's all done and dusted. Please, it's 2. You can mix and match your fabrics if you want, you know, one side of it being one type of fabric and the other side of it being another one. Either way would look nice. So, and then the interfacing would have to be 2 interfacing as well in the measurements that we've specified. Thanks, Nova. I just like things being like so, because if it's not right, it's just going to sort of like nag me for, you know, throughout the time I'm sewing. So I try to make sure that everything is nice and proper. So I've done, I'm yet to cut out the foam stabilizer, which is the A3, but I'll do that as well because it's right here beside me. And zip and slip pocket has been cut. Then we need the strap connectors. If you're using faux leather, you can cut one out 5" by 2. I'm not using faux leather, so I'm just going to use some of the outer fabric and some of the bottom fabric, and I'll just cut them out 5 by 2. I'll still finish them off this with the same sort of process that was used there, but I'm just going to use fabric and I'm going to heavily interface it so it's nice and stiff. So the measurement says blah, 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 blah. So if you're using leather, make sure you cut one of it in, well, the D1, make sure you cut one in the faux leather, and then the other part of it, that will be cut off from the piece we cut out for the strap. So let's see if it's not strap. This one and that one. Now I'm going to cut the strap. Now, like I said, because I'm not using the leather part of it, I'm going to be needing like a proper long, really, really long length for the strap. So if you look at the pattern, when it says the E2, it says to cut two fabric, the width of your fabric 1 3/4. I'm going to have to do that twice because I'm not using faux leather. If you're using faux leather, you do what it says on E1. So you just cut one in the faux leather, width of the fabric by the specification it says on there. And then for the E2, you would have to cut two pieces of fabric out anyway. So I'm just going to cut two of each one of those to make my strap. So if you're using regular fabric, what I would say is you would need to piece them together. So right sides facing. Now I haven't set up the sewing machine, so I would be able to put these together today, but I can sort of get those done first thing when we start tomorrow. So you put the two pieces of fabric one across the other, about 1/4 of an inch on either side, and then you just sew right along there. So you sew right across from one end to the other, and then it's going to give you one nice long piece. Ouch. You can draw the line down the middle, which is what I normally do, and it just makes life that teeny weeny bit easier for me. And the same thing with the other one as well. Now, I've already tried this out, as in I did a small little demo long before the class started, and I can still use the same method that was used for the leather one on there. So we're just going to do that, and we're going to have two nice long pieces, and then we have to cut the interfacing as well to add to that once it's been sewn together as well. So get all that ready, and all what you need to cut those or put them all together, they're already in the pattern. So the last thing we're going to do is the foam stabilizer, and that's one single cut. So the measurement says whatever it says on there. So it's just one piece, and I guess once we've finished, we're just going to put this on top of it and just sew around it and trim off all the edges. So that's brilliant. So now what we're going to do, we can actually do some of the ironing and putting all those together right now, so that tomorrow it's a bit easier for us. The only thing we won't do is the strap, which we can just quickly put together tomorrow. Strap, strap, strap. Yeah. So I will clear up that place and set up the ironing board. And we still need to cut out the interfacing for the pockets as well, which okay. As I've said many times when I've been doing these, if you're using African wax as your main fabric, when you're ironing it, please make sure you're using the wool setting just about two settings below the regular wool setting, because there are different types of they all come in different qualities, and you want to make sure that you're not sort of um, scorching your fabric or burning your fabric, because some of them do melt. I can attest to that. So make sure that you're using a nice wool, or slightly lower than a wool setting to start with, until you're actually sure of what type of fabric you've got. So I'm just going to do just the one, and then we're going to take a nice, well-deserved break and resume tomorrow. And tomorrow I'm going to make sure that the system and every single thing is working okay, so that we don't have the same snafu that we had today. That was really, really very disconcerting, but it still all turned out right in the end. And I'm so glad that you were all able to stay through to the very end. Thank you so, so very much. And I hope Lizzie was able to answer most of your questions. But if not, I shall look through the questions and I shall answer as many of them as I can tonight. And please don't worry if you haven't gotten as far as we have. Just take your time and go at your own pace. That's the most important thing. Your own pace is what matters. I Most times it's like I may be able to whiz through things and not think about it, but just go at your own pace. If you have questions along the way, if when we get offline you decide to do a bit more and anything comes to mind, just drop us a line. And no question in my book, no question is silly or no question is stupid. Just ask, because it might be something that I'm thinking about as well, but I've just not bothered to ask. So please do ask your questions, and we'll do every single thing we can to sort of answer your questions and to make sure that you're right on track. And as Lizzie was trying to remind me at the very beginning, she was, telling me that, look, before you start, remember, you have to flip. I'm like, yes, I know, I have to flip. But chances are I will forget. So I haven't, well, I did forget briefly, but everything went fine today. So I'd like to say a big thank you to every single person. And I really do appreciate you're staying online with me today. Tomorrow will be more organized, more prepared, every single thing, all broadband all sorted out. Shall speak to them. And we should have some more fun tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a lovely evening. Bye.